How to monetize esports.
And thank you for being here today. And it's always great when we sit down and we talk about esports. Everybody's talking about the rise of esports. We've had a number of even during SiGMA, pre-COVID, when we actually sat down and we actually physically sat down and actually had panels about esports. We've arrived to a point also where maybe we need to discuss how esports can show us the money. So that's why today we have a great list of panelists, and basically we're talking about how to monetize esports. Sebastian, Ondrej, and Magnus, welcome. Welcome, it's a pleasure having you here, and you're all esports experts also. Just to give a bit of an introduction to us, and Malta, and especially GamingMalta Esports, we started spearheading about 3 years ago Malta's strategic efforts on the esports front. Okay, and this has led to a young and bustling esports ecosystem here. Our multi-year agreement with ESL, starting with ESL Pro Seasons 11 and 12. And it's good to see the numbers there. We were actually affected by COVID that seasons 11 and 12 were about to happen in Malta, physically in Malta. And due to COVID, all those plans were changed. But it's good to know that the numbers were pretty astronomical also. There were 163 million hours of people were watching and viewership when it comes to esports. So really, esports and COVID really did teach us that the sector is very resilient to that, and really it has all given us a boost. So when it comes to monetization, and I'll start with you, Sebastian. Sponsorship and advertising right now are the main revenue sources, right? When it comes to esports. Your insights in this, and what you're currently seeing also as a nearly state of the union for the esports side.
Yeah, okay, so sponsorship and advertisement is pretty much the main pillar for esports when it comes to revenues right now, which is, of course, nice to get that revenue into the industry, but it's also a curse for us. Esports in itself is very different from sports. I always compare it to like a train. We don't own the railway, we don't own the train. We only have the opportunity to maybe build an additional cart, like a restaurant or like a sleep cart on a train, but the train goes with or without us, and that's the gaming industry. So we have to find ways how to make money on the fly on a train that never stops. So the problem for us right now is in innovation. For me, it's tech. For other guys, it's other niches in the esports industry. How can we reduce the amount of sponsorship and advertisement revenues in the sense that we replace them with a few others that are recurrent and stable? And that's the biggest curse of the industry as of 2020, because while we are resilient also with COVID, we're not resilient when it comes to, for example, spending.
Sebastian, thank you for that. And it's interesting to see how you're talking about the speed train going really, really fast, and we all have to keep up and catch up, and also talking about as a curse, really. Magnus, do you really see this from your perspective? Is it the case where the only constant is change also in esports, and you have to deal with that also from a sponsorship perspective point of view?
I think everybody sees.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Magnus.
No worries, Sebastian. No, but as I said, I think for esports, and also if you compare that to traditional sports, it is different how you activate within this space as a sponsor. Usually, as I said, it's not that logo slapping thing. You actually need to create something content around that, and I think that's one of the things where the sponsorship needs to evolve into having more creative content, something that engages with the audience that's watching that. Because right now, just slapping the logos and 1 million plays is not going to help and build that authenticity that needs to do that. And also, I think we need to address the gamers in a different way to compare to a sports fan or to something else there. So that's one of the things that's important, that esports advertising needs to look in another way there. But as Sebastian said, it is a different beast because we don't own that. Somebody owns the games. Nobody owns football, but somebody owns that game. If it's Counter-Strike, if it's Overwatch League, whatever. So that's a huge difference there.
Okay, Ondrej, in fact, taking on this point, Are we in charge of our own destiny when it comes to esports and sponsorship? Magnus mentioned that, hey, we are not responsible or we do not own the actual games. But is it, what's your take there?
Yes, it is completely true that we don't own the product as such, but we have the ability to influence the industry, and with certain level of creativity, esports can be seen as a source of revenue for the advertisers, and we have to approach it just from a different point of view than, let's say, football, because exactly, I agree with that. It's not enough to just slap a logo there. You need to have some sort of content behind, some sort of story, and be creative. And that's something that esports are offering that you cannot offer with traditional sports, at least not at such high level that with esports. So you have, when you see the top brands in esports, like G2, Fnatic, they are the ones who is creating the best content and who is getting the fans engaged. And that's how you approach them, and that's how you communicate with them. And this is a much better way than to just name something with a brand or just slap the logo somewhere.
Yeah, and Sebastian, coming back to you, what makes good content? So Ondrej has already mentioned some of this, but from your experience, what makes good content, and what's so engagement, which then also relates to actually helping to monetize also that.
Yeah, I mean, this is you can take teams as an example. Like a team in esports that's run like a sports team will go bankrupt within months. Like when they come to me and don't have a proper strategy around content, around their influences, the team as a whole, the brand as a whole, but also each and every player, for example, and even the CEOs could become a face of the company and also act as an influencer. So that's where content starts. They need to drag the community, because if you take away what we just said, who actually owns the community, that's mostly, they're bound to a game, so you can't reliably count them in, which means you need to create sort of a subculture, a sub-community, which is loyal to you, which you can then trim towards your activation, sponsors. Some produce beyond content, then also hardware and software and services. And this is where it has to start. So the content has to be, of course, engaging, true to the game and scene. It has to be authentic to the person and to the brand. And that's pretty much where the gold lies. That's why every team these days ends up also sort of as a semi-media agency in a sense.
That's where the gold lies. Magnus, maybe from a bit your experience from the esports and entertainment group, you're on the front lines here. Do you see this also?
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I think, as Sebastian said, I think every team, every team has to be their own media house, create that content they actually use and they can sell, that they monetize on, and that's something that really needs to happen fast, because if the team's going to survive. Yeah. And as I said, we see that, and I think we've been looking at, as I said, we've done some deals with the traditional sports team where there hasn't been any games running, but they've been looking at esports as a way how they can engage with fans. How do they do that? And we see that we've done a deal with LA Kings, the LA Galaxy, and Philadelphia Unions. They engage with the fans through esports tournaments. It's grassroots tournaments, but it creates something, their engagement, but also can create a storyline for actually how you as a fan of a team can come and win a tournament and actually meet with the pro athletes. They also love the game. So for them, it's perfect to do that way. So building that content authenticity is really important, as Sebastian said.
So it's really, as you mentioned, engagement, and keeping the fans there also. Ultimately, they're the ones who make or break you. Coming maybe, pushing onto a different subject. We're in an iGaming world here, and we're in a betting community also here. Okay, with especially in Malta being a very strong iGaming ecosystem. So the question is, and I'll refer to you, Ondrej, how do you see the iGaming community bridging towards the esports community? Seeing it also from a bit of a macro perspective, that the esports community has maybe always been a bit wary, skeptical of the gambling community.
Yeah, I think there are two main ways how the iGaming community can approach esports and can be beneficial for esports, and it's already happening. One is that esports betting is some form of engagement and, let's say, additional fun added to the esports tournaments and leagues and matches as such. So it's some sort of additional fun that the consumers can have, and they can bet during the games. So we talked about engagement. This is a perfect example of engagement during the game, and it brings some additional thrill to the game. And the second way how they can add to the esports ecosystem is the monetization of data, because the tournaments, their data that they have are actually source of income, and they can sell it to the data providers and through them they can monetize it to betting companies. So it creates a loop which then can be filled back to esports by sponsorship from betting companies to the leagues or to the tournament. So and Magnus can properly talk about it because they have the whole loop together. So this is why how betting industry and iGaming industry can add value to esports.
So Magnus, coming back to you, maybe you can tell us a bit how, your insights through this product and consumer journey and the life cycle product, basically.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, we saw it during the pandemic when sports stopped. People went into, because they want to bet, they went into betting on esports, and what they bet on, what we could see on our side was to actually bet on NBA 2K, the FIFA games, because those are the traditional games that you, as you're a sports bettor, that's the game you understand. They didn't necessarily went into the Dotas, the League of Legends, because if you don't play that game, you're hard to understand that. But what we believe in, and also what we need to change is for iGaming into esports, is that the experience, this the educational part. We need to educate the sports bettor on how esports work and how the game works. I think that's something they're missing to be able to put bets in there, because they know everything about bets, the chance, and all those kind of things, how to do that. And for the gamers, we need to educate on how the actual betting works. And you can bet, and you can take the knowledge that you have into betting. And you can take as I said, it's not a game or chance, because for gamers, there's no game or chance. We're not going to sell them the casino route. There's 200 free spin. That's never going to happen. So what we see is that we need to have a better product for them. But also we can see with the tournament platforms that we're running, it is a way for us, for customer acquisition, to actually get those gamers and then do an upsell to, if it's fantasy, esport, or if it's betting. That's how we want to take them route to get him into betting part.
And Sebastian, Magnus mentioned that we need to create a better product, right? What would be in your case? Okay, what will success look like in your case for a better product when it comes to esports and the betting side of things?
For me, iGaming is obviously an intrinsic part of esports. It brings money in, it brings engagement in, it even brings views. So that's very good for the esports industry. Fun fact, I got my first betting sponsorship in 2010 on a back then former company of mine. So it's really quite a long story. What I criticize, and that's also one of the reasons I'm going to SiGMA as well as many other iGaming events, is that often, and Magnus said this, the sports bettors, they extrapolate their logic into esports, and often there is no one-size-fits-all solution. So what they need to do is, for example, work with people like me or Magnus that have deeper insights on how to gamify the experience, how to make it more rewarding, how to even sort of get sort of an entry drug level thing, so you can make nice things through predictions only, even without stakes, how to get gamers intrinsically in there. Because gamers are they need authenticity, and just slashing your sportsbook design and some esports games in there, it doesn't cut it anymore, not in 2020. You need to be better than that. Your messaging needs to be better. And there's many products that we are also in TwogNation working on. That is definitely something where you can do things better. Everything from lottery, games of skill and chance, better experience with betting, predictions and everything. I think iGaming hasn't even explored 60% of what's possible. Not even that.
Mm-hmm. So what we're learning, Ondrej, here is, and I refer to you, is that the iGaming professionals need to get their hands dirty a bit and learn more about the esports community, and really embed themselves, and having the time and also experience to understand, how it all works. This one size fits all, as you guys mentioned, it's so true. Ondrej.
Yes, Sebastian said it perfectly. There is a lot of work for betting companies to really engage and attract esports wagers. The behavior and the consumer, let's say, behavior is very much different from traditional sports. You cannot just use the same interface that you have for football or horse racing just at esports and expect esports fans to come there and bet the same way. That will not happen, and that will not work. So you definitely need to adjust the experience. You need to have a sense of community, social aspects. You need to have a transparency, because the esports fans, they are very careful to not be part of some scam. So these are the things that betting companies can work on, definitely.
From my experience also, a little story here. I got involved in esports around about three and a half years ago, and I remember I was in Katowice in Poland, watching the ESL tournaments there. And outside Katowice, it was snowing, it was cold, but there were large queues of young people and also parents, waiting to go in. That to me was a nirvana moment, kind of thing. I say if one can see this, and people are sacrificing, they're waiting in the cold, they're waiting to go into the arena and still remain excited about it all. You actually see it happening, and I think people need to feel this, right? And they need to see this also, because this is how you get engaged with the community. And the esports community is a big community, but it's a close-knit community also, and you really have to win them over. You can't just come and decide, hey, because I am an iGaming portal and I want to go on this. They will. It won't work. It won't work that way. So, Sebastian, if I had to ask you, key, what will be the challenges, coming into that and referring back to monetizing esports?
Okay, so for me, the challenges, and this is what my company also tackles, is, as I said, new revenue streams through technology. I don't think we have explored really like a lot of dark spaces. Right now, we're extrapolating from other industries, standard advertisement, standard sponsorship, a lot of sports. iGaming guys go with what they know from decades of betting and similar. But there's so much more we can do. So in TwogNation, we produce a lot of platforms, social networks, but also working on these fine-tuning things. So I think one of my goals for 2020 to reach even deeper, which goes into micro and nano influencers as well as users, because I think they're untapped. I think the top to bottom approach in esports is, again, blessing and curse. Having a healthy pro circuit is good for every esport. However, we're leaving the grassroots behind. That's often because, for example, we don't have the technical tools to loop them in or monetize even guys with just a few thousand followers instead of hundreds of thousands. So that's one of the things I want to break in 2021 with our technologies, going even deeper. And I think that's even where the majority of the revenue will lie in the future of esports.
Sebastian, that's real great, and good luck with those challenges also. Magnus, in your case?
For us, it's build, as I said, building that ecosystem, make sure that everything functions. I think one of the key things to monetize is the content, the media rights here. And I think with technical things, 5G launching, I think you're going to see a huge thing that actually can build more content, sell content to the telecom, because they're not going to be selling you the traditional plan where everything is free messaging, free data. That everyone can do that. I think content, Camaro Esport can be the one that runs that, and especially also if you can use tournament platforms around tournaments on 5G, that's going to be that part.
Excellent.
For us, for esports entertainment, it's building on the ecosystem. We're building that 3-pillar strategy we have with esports betting, traditional betting, and we also continue working on the esport entertainment part, where we actually bought Helix centers, which we think is interesting going forward, because I don't see casinos maybe going to be that one place. There will be new casinos like as land centers. We actually will play a land duel where I beat Ondrej in a game of FIFA for $5. That's not going to be flying anyway. I think that's going to be regulated.
Yeah.
As I said, so we want to build on that product there.
Okay. Ondrej, your take. We mentioned the grassroots. Tell us about this and how you see that.
Yeah, for us, I wanted to mention one nice thing that, for example, here in Czech Republic, Saskabet, one of our partners, they started the biggest esports league in Czech Republic this year. But the part of the initiative is to also invest in the development of young players in esports. They are doing the same for football or ice hockey, and they were thinking like, why don't we do this in esports? And that's also a very nice way how to support, let's say, the bottom part of the ecosystem, so that then the players can grow. They have a vision for a future. They can understand what is the career path. Their parents can understand it better. So this is something that I think really helps in the long term. And from the company point of view, we are always supporting the betting companies with engaging content for esports and for betting. We decided that for next year, we'll focus even more to help them, let's say, understand the audience and how to approach them and what kind of platform do the esports punters need. Because as we discussed, it's a different demographics, it's a different segment of customers, and they just need something different than traditional punters.
Yes, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Ondrej. Thank you, Magnus. I think we agree. I mean, we could go on and talk about this because it's really, interesting and exciting. Definitely, I think the key outtake of today is really education, continued education about esports, and also learning about, the zero to hero models and all this, and, and really capturing the excitement which the esports sector can also have. Thank you very much.